Hey there, my name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is the path to the Father. And as usual, I want to talk about this in a couple of ways. I want to talk to you about Father Principle, Dad, and I want to talk to you about Sky Father, Spirit Principle. So, my path to my father ended abruptly at 17 months. My dad decided to get a canoe, and he decided to take my mom and brother, who was 7 at the time, canoeing because he was very outdoorsy and very active. And I was 17 months old. My sister was 3, and we were in the house being stewarded by some two-leggeds while they went on this adventure. And on that particular day, my dad decided not to wear a life jacket. And on that particular day, they decided to release the dam at the Brazos River because of flooding. They didn't bother to see if anyone had rented canoes or if anyone was downstream. They just lifted the dam. And so much water and water pressure came down the Brazos River that it rose above the treetops. And it flipped the canoe. And the last time it pulled my dad under, and the last time he was seen, he was bobbing, not struggling, and his body was never found. And so from 17 months old to 47, the idea of Father Principle, the idea of Dad, has been MIA, technically. I mean, dead, yes, but also missing in action, like not available. So today I wanted to do this video initially really around the spirit component, but I wanted to also talk to those of you who were missing the Father Principle in your life. I want you to know, first and foremost, that you still have a Father Principle, a masculine principle in you. We all do. Everybody gets to have masculine and feminine principle because it's present in your Kundalini energy. Kundalini has Ida and Pingala. Pingala sits on the right side of Muladhara, your root chakra. And at the base of the pelvis, it's a 3.5 turn coiled snake that is red, hot, masculine, active, dynamic, doing, moving, actionable. And everyone has that. We have the Ida, the feminine, cold, lunar, receptive. But we have this active dynamic on the right side of the pelvis. Everyone has it. And so we all have access to masculine energy. Symbolically, masculine energy in the universal language of mind historically has always been assigned to penis. You know, I had a boy, whatever. If we look, though, to astrology even, the astrological symbol for more masculine doingness energy is the planet Mars. Mars is the actionable planet of action and behavior, and it's a circle with an arrow pointing out. It's literally an arrow going out and a circle. Very similar to a penis with balls and a penis shaft pointing out and ejaculating out and its energy going out. And so all of that symbology, you know, if we're going to break it down, which is what on the shamanic path you're always doing, is reading the signs, symbols, and clues, it shows that masculine principle is around the doingness, the animus, the actionable, the outwardness, right? And so in the concept of, you know, your physical form, your mind, your heart, and your spirit, mind, body, spirit, feeling, your feelings in your body are ascribed to the feminine principle. The clay of Mother Earth is your body, and the heart of the matter, and receiving your heart, and receiving your sadness, and receiving your feelings is a feminine principle to be receptive to the feeling dynamic. But the mind and the thoughts, as well as the spirit, the animus, are the masculine principle. So thinking, strategizing, communicating, problem solving, They talk about this in the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, you know, like the masculine principle is solving problems, but there's validity in that. Like our masculine principle wants to solve the problem. It doesn't want to sit in empath and listen to your story. It's like, well, you got a problem, let's fix it, you know? And there are people with vaginas that have toxic masculinity. They are constantly doing, they're not being, they're not receiving. They talk over people, they're not generous listening. They don't have a developed, so I'm not talking about genitals, let's not mishear me. I'm just saying that symbol of the masculine principle, genitalia-wise, represents going out, getting it done, get her done. So one of the things that my essence is the spirit of Heather, which is a distinct energetic expression, energetic signature, right? And because I have a void or a ghost where there would be father principle, in order for Heather to walk in balance with her own father principle, her own father dynamic, it requires me to consider and weigh, how am I doing with my boundary setting, which is a masculine principle. If you're in a state of toxic femininity, you're not setting boundaries, and everyone's welcome into the garden of your life, and all these people are taking advantage of you because you're not being a strategist, because you're not using the mind, because you're not using the thought to go like, this doesn't make sense. We don't have equal energy exchange. This doesn't work for me, right? So when we develop a healthy masculine principle, no matter what our genitals are doing, we are strategizing, we are establishing boundaries, we are using the information we receive to choose what we do in the world in a very logical and sensible way. We are being effectual and effective. And so I'm asking you today, how's your path to the Father going? For me, the path to the Father started at a very early age because Daddy was lost. And although Mom was, in some levels, mother, father, and although my brother, who's 7 years older or 6 years older, was kind of father, brother, I got to have a masculine principle in my household. On a lot of levels, boundaries are still, at 47 something, I need to learn. And I feel great concern for the male identified of our world, because the feminine principle of emotions are often not taught and imbued and entwined in the offerings that we give those entities that grow up as males. We don't tell them like, yeah, you can totally cry at work and it's appropriate for you to cry. As a matter of fact, every two-legged that ever comes to Earth School, the first thing that they do is cry. Clearly an appropriate part of the design. And just because you're male doesn't mean that the only emotions you're allowed to have are happy and angry. I think one of the most beautiful and strongest things I witness in a male-identified individual is them crying, because it's so counterculture. It's like such a rebellious act for you to choose to liberate yourself against the humanitarian crime we place on males, in which we treat them like they can't feel. You're just supposed to produce and bear fruit and, you know, can't feel anything. We don't have time for your feelings. Nobody wants to hear you whine, you know. So how's your father principle going? Are you having a toxic dynamic with yourself where you're being toxic masculine, irrespective of what your genitals are doing, in which you're overdoing it, you're constantly doing, you're aggressively strategizing and trying to problem solve and preemptively problem solving, and you're not giving yourself time to receive yourself and to feel your feelings, to care for the body, to nurture the self? And then there's the concept of Father Sky. You know, in many native traditions and in many traditions globally, we see the father principle present. That's a sky principle, right? Where we have the father principle. So many two-leggeds perceive that the sky, birds, all of that represents masculine principle, the dynamic of flying around and raining down and sending sun rays out, you know, shooting sun rays out. Whereas Earth Mother just receives the waters and then blooms forth the beauty from having received. And I think about that a lot, Sky Father weeping at Earth Mother's beauty. And I think about in Mother Nature how the male birds do all this work to impress the female. They're active, they're dynamic, they're trying to zhuzh up the nest and zhuzh up their feathers and zhuzh up their dance, you know? And I think about how their feathers experience a long string of consistent and incessant males in a toxic state. And I believe it's because they were conditioned not to feel. So they don't know how to talk to me about their feelings. They don't know how to communicate what they're feeling. And, you know, love is a feeling, and it's an active dynamic. It's an active principle of my spirit. But I have so much empathy and sensitivity for the male identified of our world, because men have done such completely tragic, toxic things to me. They're very quick to hand me their penis, to hand me a phallus, to hand me the most intimate part of their body, but not their hand, not their mind, not their heart. And men are not so small. If you are male identified, you are not so small that you are just your body. You know that, right? You are a mind and you are a heart. You are a spirit. You are so much more than your physical form. And it's not that a penis isn't beautiful, but a mind is also beautiful. So is a heart. So is getting to know the spirit of a situation. And I've watched, there's so many different things I've heard from men. You know, it's like, aside from rape and sexual assault, and this happens to men too, I'm never going to advocate that that's just a female related thing. I think men need more stage and opportunity to discuss what they go through in that vein. But I can say, like, the number of times I've had men offer physical sexual aggression with me and have been sexually aggressive in a toxic way with me. And I've heard men say, like, oh no, we give like 2 compliments to a girl in the club, and then we slam her personality. We say something real crappy to her because it like lowers her self-esteem, and then she comes back grabbing for a compliment, and that's how we get her number. I'm like, that's psychological warfare. So you're telling me you go to a club with a psychological warfare plot? Like, I can't. It's good to strategize. It's good to plot, but we're not playing mind manipulation game to get a phone number. You know what I mean? You could just also talk to her and get to know her. And it makes me sad because a healthy father principle, a healthy masculine principle would understand that they could use the brilliance of their mind and their intellect and that which they have developed to be in the world in a way in which they can elicit interest from someone they're interested in. So I'm asking you today, how is your actual masculine principle going in your life? But I'm also asking you about Father Sky. Sky, this concept of spirit, this concept of soul, your animus, your animating force. I also feel dismayed. I decided, and I haven't in 2023, to join any dating sites. I used to be on dating sites because at 47, I prefer to be in a relationship as a monogamous lady and a long-termer and somebody with a lot of affection and love and somebody who loves to nurture. But I'm very challenged by dating sites because there's just a lot of energy of, it feels like it's only having to do with form, our bodies, what we look like, our genitals. Like, I'm so bored. I'm so bored. I could never be asked to describe my vagina to another man for the rest of my life. I could never have another quote unquote dick pic for the rest of my life. And I find that very satiating, because I'd much rather dig into your mind. I want to dig in the crates of your mind. You know what I mean? And then I might be intrigued by your penis. You know what I mean? But let's start with something much deeper and richer than these flesh costumes that rot off the bone and turn to ash. And so quickly we throw away often spirit, soul, God. We just like, let's throw this away. I've never shaken the hand of God. I've never met an alien, therefore they don't exist. Okay, it's definitely an option. We have infinite probability and possibility available with 8 billion people. But the path to the Father, the path to spirit, the path to knowing your soul is a matter of studying, learning, activating, What are you doing to study God? Did you just throw it away because it doesn't come in a package? Why has mankind talked about Sky Father through many different names throughout all time if it's so non-existent? Why is it so present in the collective consciousness of mankind? Is it possible that it's not an object and that it is content and not form-based? So on the path to the Father, on the path to knowing soul, on the path to knowing God, on the path to knowing spirit, what steps do you take? Do you meditate? Do you go within? Do you study near-death experiences? Do you study reincarnation? Do you actively work to know the animus that is within you, that which put the Fibonacci sequence and sacred geometry back of the design, that which caused a goat to have a rectangular iris and a male seahorse to carry the baby, right? That intelligence. What are you doing to take steps on the path up the mountain to knowing the Sky Father principle? You can always subscribe to Rare Bird Medicine on YouTube, like and comment there. We do have some classes coming up at rarebirdmedicine.com. Hit the classes link. Blessed be.